Hi, folks. Nick Tucker here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into tonight's program, I need to pay some bills. So the Historical Fencing Guild is made possible, first and foremost, by our patrons. The folks, if you see the link right here, it's going across, patreon.com/the Historical Fencing Guild. They are the erstwhile people who make what I do possible. I can't thank them enough. It is such a challenge to run a channel that is educational and based in weapons-based information in this day and age, because there's so much pushback of misunderstanding of what we represent. So I want to just thank them, and that goes to Off in the Woods, Ronald Rain, Frog G, Bladed Thesis, Brian K. Morris, Cindy Kep, and Steve Augusto. Their names scroll at the bottom of the page every day, all the time. If I'm running on a live stream, their names are scrolling. You guys make my ability to buy trainers, my ability to maintain the list field, my ability to do so much possible. My streaming is provided by our good friends over at the Independent Creator Directory that can be found at IndieCD.org, your one-stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, musicians, editors, creatives of all talent and class. They are wonderful people who are working every day to help small creators get a little bit more notice, a little bit more notoriety, and while keeping them safe from the whims of Elon and Zuck and anyone else who's running these streams, because they're they're billionaires. They want to support you. And they, oh God, I'm sorry, guys. I had a bit of a thing that happened, which is why I'm running late, and I'll get into that. It threw off my mojo just a bit. So it is affecting me. It may call for a shorter stream. I'm not really sure. We will see. But please join the Historical Fence. Please join the Independent Creator Directory if you're a small creator looking for a place to be safe. With code podcast1, all caps, you can get half off the one-time fee. And it is a great service. We are also made possible by sales of my books, which are much more related to what we're doing overtly today. The Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear. These are all part of my ongoing series of Western martial arts manuals designed to help you go from having never handled the sword to moving forward and teaching it to others. So a huge shout out to the folks who've bought my book, who review it. If you've bought my book, please, I ask you to put a review in Amazon. Any of my books, including Haints and Hellfire and the Big Stompy Robot sci-fi books and everything else I've done, those reviews are vital. Now, let me check the chat real quick, and we will get to where we are. Evening all. Good evening, Thesis. Hello, Foxy, and Deep Breathing. It is 108 here. We went from 60 to 108, basically in the course of almost 12 hours. I spent the day running around, and while I try not to be as personal on this show as I do, we had somebody, while we were out, we had somebody apparently had swiped our card number and was using it for nefarious purposes. We found that out, and during this time, Mandy, my wife, she is rather ill. We're not sure what it involves. A decreasing in dramatic iron in her blood, and she is very lethargic. So she's had to have some extra care that was unexpected. And I am not the best person when I'm concerned about my wife. I tend to make that my priority. However, she is tucked away. It could be that the sun and heat and the condition she's trying to work with has conspired to make things really rough for her. But I'm going to have to deal with that and be there for her. So, yes, ouchie, and oh no, well wishes for you all. We are, of course, she talked to the bank because I was out shopping with Xander when our cards got declined for things they should not have been declined for. And we kind of did the coast home on fumes because I didn't know what was going on. We are okay. Everything is okie-caby. We just have to deal with this before we can deal with some other things. And it means that Mandy won't likely be up to visiting my parents come tomorrow. So it will probably be me and Xander, and she gets some more downtime. I have to catch up on some other things. It's okay. But thank you for your support. And like I said, I will try to keep the show going because, frankly, she is tucked in front of in the bedroom by the air conditioner, just being as cool and comfortable as she can. We can't really ask much more than that. But any positive mojo her way is welcome. We also we have to get back on topic. So, Historical Fencing Guild. What do we have to discuss today? Today I want to talk about alternate ways to acquire your goods. Because I've been outfitting people for many, many years on a shoestring or less budget. And a lot of people who want to learn martial arts are gatekept by the finances involved. I think that is a terrible thing to have to go on. It's a terrible thing to have to deal with. This is where understanding where your equipment is coming from, understanding where your situation, what your conventions are, your rules of fighting in whatever group, if you have one, and if not, wherever you are. But with a healthy level of vigilance is a good way to put it. You can always find something to train with. Now, we talked about buffers, and we've talked about buffers a lot. Buffers being just PVC, literally just shoved into a properly length pool noodle. Cut down. You want to cut it a little long. Actually, yeah. I'm going to do it right here. I'm not playing. It is the act of making a buffer is a very complex task. Really, guys. Mm-hmm. But you squeeze it, you can feel where the end is. Now, if you have a cap on your pipe, it won't punch through as easy. If you don't, you'll find that it does. Thank you. But so all you have to do is take a sharp knife. A box cutter works surprisingly well. A slicey neck knife works shockingly well. And then you have something like this. I'm going to put that down. It's not going away, and the knife will be back in a minute. Yes, I'm a trained professional. And see, thesis says, we usually don't use pool noodles for a buffer. We use foam insulation that isn't as thick. That has varying effects. It can be a bit less safe. It can be less likely to encourage people to people feel safer with one of these. It's also less likely to, but it's also a little bit more expensive to acquire because you have to get the pipe insulation and much more time consuming. So I've made a buffer. Like right now, I could stop, and as long as I was only striking, it would be fine. But it's not, because I am not ever going to only strike. So what you need next is, if I am out of duct tape around here, I will lose my mind. I have all the duct tape in the world, but you're going to take this. Now, Nick, where do you get your PVC? Because PVC has become more expensive. Well, that's part of what I wanted to talk about earlier. What I did, which you probably didn't see, is just lined everything up and started the cut, so I know that this thickness is as thick as the buffer itself. So now, cutting away from myself, fully aware of my surroundings, whenever possible, doing most of the movement with the material. So if you look at my technique, I'm only doing a very gentle stab, and I'm rotating slightly. Now, because I looked up, my cut isn't as straight, and it kind of got jaggedy. Well, I'm not worried about that, because I am an old wood carver. I can do a couple tricks that I wouldn't show you guys because it involves the angle of the blade being close to you, pointed at you, and I don't ever demonstrate that. But you can use a hot knife. You can use a like I said, a box cutter. The little clicky brake knives work great. It doesn't need to be heavily overthought. That's not the weapon. Now, for the tape, most people, what I'm saying, you want to do for the tip, that is, you're going to push it here and you're going to compress it a bit. And then you're going to take this whole rig up, which I had a roll of tape that was set here, given to me by the incomparable Cindy Kett. Naturally, nothing stays where it's supposed to in my house. So, do I have any tape of any kind? Because brick tape works, athletic tape works. In some cases, people like the athletic tape better because it's less sharp. It's less inclined to cut. But the rest of the process, which I will show, I guess, another time, is very simple. You just tape over and wrap down. Now, where do you get your PVC? You can get it from the hardware store. It's cheapest to buy it in lengths of 10 foot and then cut it down yourself. You can also, this is the time of year where people are throwing things away. And there's nothing wrong with acquiring something that somebody's thrown away if it is in good use. So perfectly good PVC is often thrown away. If it is slightly used, you need to look at it and see if it, as long as it hasn't been out in the sun, is it nasty? You take what you can. But with a bit of tape, which I, of course, need to acquire, but we don't need to worry about that for our purposes, you can make a boffer. This will not, you do not go full force with a boffer. It will still hurt. It will, however, be a lot safer. And many organizations use boffers, much like what I'm recommending, and then they make little drawstring bags that actually come down over instead of the tape to keep the to protect the foam, keep it from getting torn and slashed in contact, and protect people from getting cut by tape. It's a really neat system. That is something I have not done because I don't usually play with those groups. I am more than happy to play with those groups, but I haven't much. I usually use their gear when I'm playing with them. But see, we're looking at possibly $2 to $10 investment, less if you're cunning, and you can have a decent trainer. Now we're using my everything sword stick, which is this is my everything SSO. I use it to simulate anything I need to swing around a lot so I don't hit the ceiling fan and have you guys make fun of me. But you just hammer on an end cap. This grip was made by tying a knot, wrapping a few times, and then instead of fully weaving it like I could, I just gave it a nice twist, and I followed it with athletic tape, which gives me this very nice, complete. I mean, it is agonizingly locked in. And what's great is you can actually see the wear pattern on the tape of this particular trainer. It is not difficult to get into what we're doing, especially at the base levels. Buffers are your friends. Everybody should have them. Everybody should make them. You do want to use the Schedule 40, which is the thick stuff. This is half-inch PVC. It used to be that you could get end caps for 19 cents, but with inflation, I have honestly no idea. I've seen them at 25 cents. I've seen them at $1.50. It's ludicrous across the stores, but you just have to pay attention and see what you can find. Different groups will have different conventions about how you have to build the buffers. This is how you do it at home, the fast and dirty way. And then you just go about bonking the living snot out of each other. When you wrap it, make sure your tape overlaps a bit. You don't want a blunt edge because it's going to tear. You want at least a quarter to half an inch of overlap between your layers. Even if you have to do one candy cane spiral down, do it, and then start another piece, candy cane spiral, back up along the same axis, and then wrap rounds to make sure they're locked in. That's usually how I wrap a buffer. I was going to show you, but my tape is out of reach, and due to the dysfunction of today, I'm a little flustered. I think that is fairly reasonable. But say you can't do that. Okay. I'm going to postulate a comment that was brought to me, and it was brought to me by my youngest brother. My youngest brother, Ricky, came to me and he said, Nick, would you give up all your material things if it meant that everybody had safe housing, everyone in the world, and you know everybody had the same? As much as I like my material things, and I do, I said yes. And he went, ha ha, really? You'd get rid of all your swords and your training equipment, all the stuff you spent years? If it meant a worldwide end to the suffering of homelessness, you bet your bibby. But guarantee something else. The first day that there's a garbage day, and I'm going to redo, thank you for what you said about the buffers. I'm going to redo the buffer video as a pre-recorded individual thing. But I got asked by somebody a direct message, so I wanted to cover it as quick and easy as possible. Today I was driving to do some errands with my son, and it happened to be big item garbage day, where they throw away lots of big stuff. Most small towns have that. Counters and old wood and pieces get chucked. I actually have a 5-foot chunk of very nice real pipe that I acquired. A 5-foot chunk of aluminum pipe. And I acquired that with the intent and purpose of, amongst other things, it being one heck of a breaker bar that you can slide over the end of a wrench and go, and use leverage to get something loose or, snapped off, and then you have a whole world of pain. But I also got a old wooden broomstick. There's no broom piece to it, just a broomstick. You could go to Walmart or Menards and you can get a broomstick. Now you have a high quality staff trainer right there. But it gets better. If you have the threaded end type, several companies sell delightful, and they really are delightful spearheads that just screw onto those. Or you can use boffer-like techniques to make a spearhead that you can train with. You want to be safe, but especially if you're just doing walking with it, I recommend you get that. You spend $2 and you get chair feet. And chair feet or table feet, depending which ones you want, look, frankly, a lot like this. Right here. Now, this is a inch diameter chair foot because I got it to go over the half-inch cap. So this might be 7/8. The point being, you want to put one of these on each end. Okay? The reason you're going to do that, this is not a boffer. This does not soften any blows. It keeps the tip from cracking and splintering and becoming more dangerous. So you can work with something like that. It also gives you an excuse to have it because it's clearly then a walking stick. And you always want to have a certain level of plausible deniability in any of the stuff that we do. This is, of course, my sword cane trainer that I made. I'm rather proud of it. But you can do similar. You can take a wooden dowel and just take either sandpaper, a file, or a Dremel tool or something, and narrow it down, slide it into a chunk of PVC, and you will then have, miraculously, a wooden bladed sword trainer that you can even sheathe with, the addition of a coupler. This isn't complex. People keep coming to me, I want to learn, but I can't afford to. So the first thing we do is we start talking safety gear. And safety gear is mandatory. You want to start getting whatever you can. And you want to fight in it, even if you're drilling alone, because there is an encumbrance to any protective gear you wear. So if you're used to doing flips and things and very pretty stylish fighting techniques, make sure you can do them with the limited agility that comes from bracers and gloves and a chest piece. A gorget. It will affect how you breathe. It will affect your stance because it keeps you upright. With a mask, because masks cause parallax. It flexes. Whatever protective gear you have, you want to use at least until it becomes like a second skin. Now, Nick, you do stuff without protective gear all the time. You're right. And I've been doing it 20 years. You can throw me in a chainmail suit. You can throw me in plastic plate. You can throw me in fancy plate. You can throw me in lacquered plate. Lorica segmentatas, the Japanese stuff, the Chinese stuff, scale mail. I've used it all at one point or another. I can make go. I have fought kitted out in modern, chest plates and rigs and things, because that's where I was training. I was working with some people and they wanted to train in the same gear. So that I said, throw me in what you have and we will see how that affects your stuff. Because if you have a chest plate here of any kind and you are used to bringing your arms together close, bringing your shoulders in, it will bind. So you have to move differently in the armor you fight. Just like I tell you guys, if you are carrying a weapon, you need to train with that weapon or as close to that weapon as reasonably possible. So, I do not have a live steel Sting shock gas bore. I do have this. If I had a live steel Sting, you bet your bacon I would be training with this a lot more. However, this is very close in length and remarkably close in balance. I'm trying to get something without causing the stuff size slide to this guy. My Bush sword by Shraud. It has a new name. I can't remember it because it was originally called the Priscilla. But I could make a trainer based on this, and I might. I have a big chunk of HDPE that I might just cut out exactly in this length and then try to thicken the grip to be as close to this style grip as possible, and then train with it. Why? Because this is one of my favorite weapons in the house to, I hear something go bump in the house, I like this. The reason I'm leaning away from more ballistic solutions, not that I don't have access theoretically to some, is I don't want to risk a through and through. I don't want to risk a straight bullet. And I don't want to have to, play range games. I don't want to engage people at range. I don't need to. I'm not paid to. I just need something to make sure I am safe and I can facilitate necessary negation upon anyone who gets where they shouldn't be. It's not, it's not thrilling. It's not, I don't think of that. I don't think of myself as a hero. And I'm going to invite you guys to as well. When you're training, yes, I say be the kind of hero you want to be. Have fun. But when you're training from a more practical angle, don't think of yourself as the hero. Don't think of yourself as the villain either. Think of yourself as the villager. Okay? So if you are, my nose is itching. If you are in the mentality of someone who doesn't want trouble, I'm not a soldier. I'm not a police officer. I am not an assassin. I am not a bodyguard. I'm closer to a bodyguard. I get close to a bodyguard at certain points. But my job is not to seek out threats and neutralize them. My job is to, whenever possible, avoid threats and only engage them if I absolutely have to. There are a lot of people out here, and you'll see on YouTube, with the exception perhaps of Master Ken, because Master Ken is that bad. You guys know what I'm saying. And if you don't, look him up. But and re-stomp the groin. You can't go in thinking you have plot armor. And it is staggering how many students, when I'm not working with somebody who is coming with mental trauma, so either someone with PTSD of some sort, ex-veteran, someone who has experienced violence from definitely the recipient side, if not from the recipient and the retaliatory side. Violence stops being a theoretical. It's a very real, very tangible, very logical in its own way set of experiences. And understanding that is what's going to help you. I realized I left IndieCD.org up this whole time. It's going to help you move through and actually survive far better than if you don't. And I'm saying that because, and it's not that I don't believe in you. Guys, I believe in you. I have absolute faith in you and your capabilities. But in the words of a very wise man, a man has got to know his limitations. And you can't look at things through the eyes of a superhero movie fan or an action movie fan. You have to be painfully pragmatic. And to do that, that requires a bit of separating yourself from your ego. It's a bit of understanding the difficulty in what you can and can't do. And the reason we have to do that, it isn't to belittle anyone, but is to prevent us from doing things that are stupid. No, I'm not belittling people. I am belittling some of their choices. And give me just 1 second. I have to sneeze. Okay, sorry about that. It's not fun necessarily to think this way. It's not joyful. And when you are playing on the battlefield, it should be a pleasant experience. However, if you're in the real world, you can't think in those terms. And we are coming once again into the time where people are far more active. People go out after dark more. They go to crowded venues. This is where developing muscle memory and developing tactical and situational awareness is what will keep you from trouble. Because on the list field, my job is 2 things. First, that you are safe, that you are being safe, you are behaving in a way that's safe to others, safe. On the other angle, that you are having fun. That's the base. Make sure you're safe. Make sure you're having fun, because you won't learn if you can't have fun. I don't know why they decided the scholastic system has to be the way it is, but humans learn more through play and participation than any other method. If you are enjoying it and you are elbow deep in whatever project or whatever you're doing, it's really easy. For those of you who learned to cook from your parents, right, or your grandparents, think about how it felt to be sitting up on that stool or kneeling on that stool, your sleeves rolled up, hands covered in flour, learning how to make dough. We're going to make some bread. Think about that experience of working through and talking to your grandmother or your mother or your father or your grandfather, whatever they identified as, whatever they were. It can make all the difference in the world. So that's one thing. It changes your life. Now think about learning to cook in home ec. Those of us who had home economics, the name changes, but a lot of us get cooking lessons somewhere in high school. They used to. Some woman or man, I had a lovely lady I used first by the name of Esther Schlegelmilch. And I will tell you that anything you're probably thinking about someone with the name of Esther Schlegelmilch is fairly accurate. Bless that woman, she did try to teach me how to type, which anyone who knows how I type, I failed her. I got through that class somehow, but she taught me a lot about machine sewing. And though I did stitch a baseball bat to a fabric stuffed baseball bat to my finger because I was bumped whilst sewing, she tried. And she did try to teach us to cook. Not the first one, so not the last. I already knew how by that point, but that is a very different experience from having an instructor who, no matter how much they mean well, is just prattling. This is this, and you're going to put the cup of this and a cup of this. And to them, it's a day job. They may love it. They may love their students. They may love teaching. But at a certain level, it's a day job. It will never feel like it is when there's family and there's love and there's moments of communication. It's a whole different ballpark. Teaching Western martial arts, I have found, works best when it feels more, at least in the early stages, like the like that kind of familial. I want to say intimate, but I don't want you guys to take it wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? And emotionally intimate, not pervy. There are times for that, and this is not the time for that discussion. Yes. Rex, hey Rex, says stay strapped or get clapped. George Washington most likely. We at Nick Knows Nerf always believe in having at least a Nerf blaster handy. Better late than never is fine. I actually had a bit of a late start due to some issues. Mandy is not feeling well, and I was tending to her, and that interfered a little bit with my startup. I'm actually kind of glad because all the duct tape you gave me has been moved out of reach, so I have to figure out where I put it to finish talking about boffer making. But getting back to where we are. So I prefer a very master apprentice style approach, at least at the very beginning. When I'm working with somebody and I'm teaching them how to sword fight, I have to do a lot of evaluation. And of the things I've done, teaching sword fighting to others, teaching the mechanics is easy. It's simple. Because I have basically, actually I do have a curriculum in my book. What you do week 1, week 2, week whatever. It's actually laid out in simple, if you understand all this, week 1, week 2, do this, do that, work through. It's not hard. It's not complicated. It is being able to evaluate your students, understanding what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how to fix it. That is what takes chaos. That's what takes time. And the only way you're going to learn that is by observing the world around you, what actions there are and what reactions there are. And that is not easy to learn. Because if you are going to teach somebody, and I hope you are, my goal has always been to create more independent, educated, free teachers. And by free, they will teach whatever system they're in or outside it. I want you guys to have the freedom to learn, provided you follow the rules of being safe about it, being smart, being compassionate. The only way to do that is to do it. But when I'm bringing people in, that's why I always I like a month. I love a month. You give me a month, that's 4 practices. I can get most people who have not a lot of physical or mental, emotional issues. I can make most of them into someone functional. In turn, authorize. I could get somebody authorization ready when I was SCA in about a month, 4 practices, if they do their homework. And yes, there's homework. You have to do your drills every night. I still do. Every night. Do I hate it sometimes? I'll be honest. Yeah. Yeah, there are nights I want to go to bed. Everybody else is in bed. But I can't go to sleep till I do my drills. The only way to teach, the only way to move, is for that consistency, folks. That is what you need. That is the most important part. The information and application and perspective. The equipment. People get caught up on equipment. You don't. I know I'm hammering this, but it's something that needs to be said repetitively until it gets in people's heads. You don't need expensive equipment per se. You don't need to lean on, the group's loaner gear if you're in a group. Most of the time, you can find a way to work around it. And I will say this, As soon as you decide you are participating in, say, fencing, I'm going to say fencing because I know it the best. Historical fencing in the round, mind you. You're saving to get something you have to borrow. Now, it's expected that you're going to have your own cup. Nobody's going to loan you a cup. I once found a great deal on them. I got them for $1. A whole freaking bag of cups that were discontinued because on the care and washing thing, a couple of letters were scrambled up. I literally gave them away. Here's a cup. Put some pennies over the holes and you're good to go. Get what gear you can. So the first things you're going to want to, as a Western martial artist, of gear you want to acquire. You probably want to get a mask, and you want to get a plastron. You want to get chest protection. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're buffering. I don't care if you're heavy fighting. You're going to have a chest plate. Oh, you may not have to, but you're going to have a chest plate. You're going to have chest protection of some kind. I don't want you to be like me and know what it's like to have your ribs in places humans aren't supposed to have them. So yes, I'm passionate on that. And then you want your first training weapon. So you look for things like functional gloves. You can get those cheap relatively. A functional mask, a chest protection of some sort. They're the fabric goods, the hoods, the armor, that's all can be acquired or sewn. But one of the best ways to show you are respecting your instructor is by getting away from loaner gear as fast as possible if you're in a group. And if you're a solo practitioner, then you train with what you can get your hands on. I spent years working with a hand-carved wooden bokken, and it was ugly carved. It was hideous. If I can find it, I will show it to you some point. I've shown it before, but it's been a while. If you don't have things, you can get some. There, I will put one caveat. One caveat. The only things that you use live steel to train in is you have to use it for knife throwing, because you really can't train knife throwing without throwing a knife. And it being sharp and well maintained is actually the safest way to go. You do not want to try throwing a dull knife. Likewise with axes. Likewise with practical skills that can run parallel to what we do. Bushcraft type things, crafting type things, respect the tool. And the vast majority of the time, an axe and a knife, in whatever format they are tools. Remember that first. So that's the only time you use. I don't ever want you guys drilling with live steel. Ever. I don't want you drilling with sort of live steel. No. Drill with either safe improvised training equipment. That's your sword simulating objects. That is things like rattan, a stout broomstick, PVC with care. Remember, PVC will break and shatter if you overdo it. It also does not like daylight. That's part of the reason why, if you're making training gear out of PVC, if you're making a boffer. Okay. You'll notice my tape goes up over the cap. Usually, I would put tape over the back end of the cap, and every bit of PVC on this would be covered with paint or with tape. Because PVC degrades under ultraviolet light. That's sunlight, folks. Or at least there's enough ultraviolet in sunlight. It does not like sunlight. PVC is meant to be buried in the ground or in your walls or something like that. It's very happy to work in the dark. So if you're using PVC, you have to protect it so it can protect you. I hope that makes sense. That can't be on ground. That fell down and wasn't supposed to. So what we're going to say is, yes, it gets sunburns like you. And actually, it gets heat sick like me. It just falls to pieces. We're going to look towards all our plastics need to be treated to an extent like that. Don't leave them sitting out in the sun. Don't leave them by the window where they'll be exposed to the sun. You want to maintain your gear because it will maintain you. So as a trainer, okay, you've decided you're going to become a trainer. What now? Well, what now? You design, going to need at least 2 sets of gear as a trainer. You're going to need your gear and loaner gear. That doesn't technically double your costs. It doubles some of them. But it does cost more because your loaner gear shouldn't be, frankly, as nice as your gear. This is a mistake I often make. Your loaner gear should be what people come to use when they don't have anything, so they're tempted to. And remember, there are pieces you can easily make with some basic skills. Bracers are easy. Chest plates are easy. Elbows aren't too bad. Shoulders can be a little tricky. A gorget is tricky, but I still intend to do a full gorget making video. My hands are starting to come back. That is in the future. It will probably be a Patreon exclusive for a while. And then let them vote if it stays Patreon exclusive or if it goes out to the public as it is. But you want protection. And the thing is, if you are fighting an accomplished fighter in your art, you should be wearing equivalent armor. If you are fighting as a trainer, someone who isn't trained, you need better armor. I need better armor to fight somebody who isn't trained than somebody who is. Yes. You need sturdier armor. You need more coverage. You need heavier because their calibration will slip. It's ironic, but somebody who knows nothing about how to use a weapon in many ways is more dangerous than somebody who has a little knowledge. Because they'll do crazy stuff and not even realize it's crazy. So you need to look into that. And this is nothing new. If you look at the coaches' vests that they used, that like Triplet used to sell for fencers, there's a reason that the coach's gear is suddenly made out of like processed water buffalo leather. I mean, much heavier, extra padding, no protection. Why? Because newbies will make mistakes, even if it's not intentional. So you have to keep yourself safe. And then as soon as you've got somebody who's interested and they're learning, you're encouraging them to get their own gear. You're facilitating it. Sometimes us crazy sword masters gift our students with gear. Oh, wow. Hey, Nick, Rex talking. Northwestern University is hosting a very cool fencing event. Instead of medals, they are awarding the top 8 with swords, axes, daggers, and the top overall underrated fencer. If your viewers are interested, please let me know and I'll give you the information. Please give me the information, because I want to disseminate that. Even if my viewers aren't currently interested, somebody in the rerun might be. I would love to start promoting people's fencing events, people's reenactments, people's LARPs. If you're going to be fighting, let me know. I have no problem on this live stream saying, hey, check this out. And please, if you can get any footage of that, if you get to go, please take it. I would love to see it and be able to share it around. But this is the progress, okay? And I know it's real early. Put that away, sorry. It's real early in the season, relatively. But we need to think long term too. For those of us who've been looking into it, it's like Thesis has been training a few people. He has a very small tight-knit group of people he trains. And I suspect highly he's going to be acquiring more, which means he's going to need the proper tools. He's going to need sword simulating objects that actually simulate the swords he fights with. I don't know. Something like this. It would be ludicrous from, let's see. It's called the 2024 Remenick, sponsored by Absolute Fencing. Okay, I know what AF Fencers. Also, an armorer will be providing personal armoring. Equipment check opens at 6:45 a.m. The competing will all be competing, of course, and the date is October 12th to 13th. And you'll be Rex will be competing in Division 1A foil and maybe epee, not sure. We will be having a Division 1A saber. I would love, yes, please. If somebody is watching this right now and they are near Northwestern University, please reach out to these people, because this is a great opportunity. And frankly, even if I were not, if I had the means to go and just simply watch, I would love to simply watch something like that. Collegiate fencing is not quite collegiate/Olympic fencing is not quite my bailiwick, because I have many bad habits. Please, I would greatly appreciate that. I would love to see the saber fights. I don't know if I'll be able to disseminate it, but I personally would love to see that. Maybe we could, if you send it to me, I'll put it on a link for the patrons, because I know the patrons will want to see it too. But yes, that is absolutely. Speaking of events, July 27th, Twin Oaks Park in New Chicago will be doing another Shakespeare in the Park. I cannot honestly remember what the show is. I just know that we have been asked, if possible, to come out and demonstrate. So I will likely be going out with Amanda and Trey and Joey and demonstrating. You are a god amongst men, Rex. You just really are. I really appreciate that, sir. Great question. How do I feel about kendo sticks? I will literally take anything you can get. Maybe we can start setting up some kind of calendar that people have access to. I know that Thesis and Foxy set up a Discord for the Historical Fencing Guild. And they're handling that for me, so I don't have to, which I really appreciate. Uh, it would be wonderful if you could occasionally throw any events you have up there and send them to me directly so I can promote them. Because frankly, even if you guys don't participate, I would love to see hear about events and get more people going, because you never know. The hardest thing that people who are involved in what we do I find, is finding somewhere to play. And Cindy says, "Oh wait, Joe mentioned the Shakespeare in the Park on Last Man Standing. Of course he did. Unfortunately, I've been sleeping lately. I wish we were closer. I always wish you guys were closer. You know that." On Wednesday, says our own Cindy Cap, I'm going to teach. I'm going out to the local HEMA group to teach mutant Distrenza. Exquisite. I don't know if it's of any use to you, but I can dig around if I haven't given you the notes I have on like the circle and the cross and all that good stuff. Reach out, Cindy, and I'd be happy to send you that stuff. If not, do your thing. If at all possible, though, please either have somebody using a tripod to record your lecture, or have a guest or someone record it so that we can see it too. I'd love to see it on your channel, and I'd love to share it around. Because one, it'll highlight the HEMA group, and it will highlight you and your knowledge, and I'd love to do that. Also, Cindy is getting very close to the time where she's going to have to go down to Florida with her Eastern martial arts group and take part in several competitions I'm incredibly impressed and proud of, including the competitive push hands. This is very cool stuff. And this is part of why I love these live streams, because we get to find out when things are happening. And sure, if you have notes, I would appreciate it. Let me see. Road trip. Let me see. I'm sure I have something tucked away I can give you. Now, the other thing I want to do before it gets to wrap up, because we've actually about made it through our hour, and I'm expected to be needed shortly to check on how Mandy's doing and some other things, is I'm going to be doing some behind-the-scenes stuff, because IndieCD.org does provide the StreamYard subscription that I use to be able to broadcast. And for financial reasons, it's much easier for him, instead of providing individuals, to have one much larger one that multiple people can use. What does this mean? This means things like Trelena Bachman would be able to host this program if I'm unable to. It would mean guests will be easier to come on. And it would mean, like I said, it costing them less, so other things might work out. It's good for everybody. But it does mean I have to engage in some technical issues basically as soon as I'm done with this broadcast, because I want to be set up for next week. Now, Cindy is saying, push hands is still kind of freaking me out, but I'll do the best I can with it. The worst that happens, Cindy, is you lose. The worst that's likely to happen is that you just don't win. But I know you too well. There's no way you won't learn a vast amount, both from the experience and from your opponents. You could theoretically win. No one's saying you won't. But what you will get is that experience, that exposure, and your name out there. Because you are a very competent martial artist, Cindy, and I am glad to see you getting in situations where you can be recognized and applauded for the efforts you are doing. You are also representative of a very special group of martial artists, those who are working with a physical limitation. And shock, gasp, horror, that is absolutely my bread and butter. I am so... And it almost sounds inappropriate for me to say I am so proud of you, but I really am. You are doing things you're not comfortable with, but you're trying anyway. And I don't think there's anything better that somebody can do. So what I'm going to say is I was planning to do a PHA walkthrough, but I think we don't need to do that. And I am past the hour, so I need to make myself available for my wife's needs while we figure out what's going on with her, as she is rather ill. So what I'm going to say, guys, is a thank you. Thank you to Off in the Woods, Frog G, Ronald Ray, Bladed Thesis, Brian K. Morris, Cindy Kemp, and my man, my hero, old boy from the OG, Steve Augusto. One of the few people on this earth who actually knows me from back when I was mad, bad, and dangerous to be around. You guys make everything I do possible, and I am eternally in your debt. So thank you. And if anyone else wants to join, as little as $1 a month goes a long ways, because I compile it, and that's how I buy trainers and gear, and I outfit people who need it, and lighting, and all the things that nobody thinks about. With all that said, guys, yes, because you weren't here for early on, but you know Mandy. Manda has a extreme low iron in her system right now. We're not sure why. There's some stuff, and they're trying to get it up, but she is not herself. She's very tired. She's very weak. And while we're dealing with this, I may be a little distracted at times. And in that case, I do apologize to the guild. I apologize to the patrons. But I think all of you understand. So, till next week, guys, keep your guard up and your eyes open. Be kind to yourself and each other. Patreon.com/The Historical Fencing Guild. Thank you, Cindy. And as always, friends, thank you for supporting your local sword master. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope you all stay healthy. And I hope the swords clash in your favor. I will see you all very soon. Toodles.